nobody who was designing the great grinding machinery of all this extraction, the oil pipelines, the pumps, the engines and the motors and the sighing and the clanking. No, I'm sure none of them imagined that the design could be anthropomorphized. That is, that the design was intended to have any visual effect. But when one sees these things, they have a very immediate effect. And the effect is one of suggesting that somebody had built a future civilization a long time ago. And that future civilization had begun in its skin, in its flesh, to rot. That is, in its metal, and in the grinding of metal on metal.
I don't work on my system every day. Some days, many hours, some days not at all. I try to have no preconceptions on how to approach them. I want to keep all possibilities and coincidences of evolution open.
And that it was gradually losing its power and its efficiency, but that it had a kind of a giant thrust, even in its breakdown, even in the loss of its lubrication, which is a tremendous irony, because of course when one looks at these things, what are they carrying but lubrication?
My new system, a society of bottles. They have a relation with me and with each other, a relation of indifference.
But they're doing it with increasing friction and increasing impact and increasing wastage of hard materials wearing away on each other. And the first impression that one has is that someone has come along and just to make a statement of some kind built great mechanical insects that are eating from inside the earth. They're like big praying mantises.
Most of my life I thought about systems, social structures, how they work or don't. With my painted bottles in increasing numbers on my kitchen table, enough to form a society, I may have a better understanding of my inquiry.
And these places are no man's lands in a way. They're wastelands. They're places where the machinery was never going to be salvaged. It was just going to be left there as some sign 1,000 years from now that some desperately ambitious civilization had failed to achieve what it wanted to achieve.
It took me 3 continents, several countries, and almost 50 dwellings to create my own bottle system.
And of course it's a place which is not really on the map as a place unto itself. It's a place that points to another place on the map. It's an in-transit place. And that's the other thing, is that your eye and your imagination glides away to the place where it's supposed to be going. And the relationship between where the oil is coming from and where it's going is the thing that's supposed to indicate the direction. It's supposed to distract you from the here and now when you're there. And in fact, it does. You think, well, I'm not here now. I'm not really living now. I'm not really responding here. I'm supposed to be in suspension until I get to the point where this stuff is actually applied. So you can imagine what it must be like for the people who live in that area, that they must go to the end of this promised delivery to start living again. And that, I think, is a very odd thing. It's a little bit like being sponged out of a photograph.
There are many stages in creating the system. I have to calculate the distances, the harmony, and the form. Harmony and stability can work against the system. Now and then, I must plan conflicts and disturbances.
It's really a little bit comparable to an airport. That wonderfully inviting thing of a great big flat space, nothing but incessant and infinite miles of grass and concrete, and for the first time your eye sees further than it's ever seen before, and there's a rabbit standing up, and there's no other sign of life anywhere. And it's almost a message of a primordial time, a sort of a time before everything was populated and inhabited. Very directional experience. It's a little bit like looking at a drawing of tunnels.
Why bottles? You were surprised. You asked me if I collected bottles. I didn't collect them. I just had a hard time getting rid of them. Did I keep the caps? Did I also collect jars? You wanted me to throw out all the empty jars and bottles.
You're not really supposed to see the thing itself. You're supposed to look at where it all goes. And there's that feeling of sliding off the page, sliding off the map, sliding off the photograph, that you're not really supposed to be photographed here, because here is a transit point to somewhere else. And so there's a kind of an existential blurring of yourself, just as you stand there. It would be almost as if some great big jumbo jet, some 747, had taken off right near you and was pulling all your clothes and your hair and your insides in a certain direction and blurring you. And that is the sort of immediate sensation one gets from being next to something which is pointing constantly at some other place and telling you that if you choose to stand here, you will stand in a place where there is no life and no reality. That you will in effect be permanently just off the edge of the photograph.
I don't work on my system at nights. The nights are deceptive and chaotic. Until I have a better understanding of my bottles, I keep the system shut at night. In other words, my bottle system, for now, is a daylight system.